Thank you for joining us today for another edition of Making a Difference for Kids, Politically Speaking. Today, we'll be discussing why voting in the primary election is really the most important election of them all. Then we'll speak with Barry Hanisch, Executive Director of the Texas Association of Community Schools, to get some helpful ideas and resources as you create a culture of voting in your community school. I'm joined today by TEPSA's Executive Director, Harley Eckhart, to begin our discussion on the primary election. Harley, I appreciate this discussion. It's very difficult. Only guys like you were just saying a while ago off camera, me and you are the kind of guys that get excited about this. Everybody else is like, huh? But I think it's very important for our members to know what the primary voting means, what gerrymandering means. So would you give, if you're going to just summarize a couple of key points for educators voting in the primary election, what might be those two key points you might want to point out?
The primaries are where it happens because of the way the district lines are drawn to favor one party or another, through the process of gerrymandering.
Right.
Gerrymandering is the manipulation of the lines of political boundaries to favor one party or another. So we will show you here a couple of examples. I'm going to use House District 33. The district goes from Frisco up, across, all the way down, and then includes Rockwall down on this corner of the area, completely skipping over this part, which is probably a significant portion of Democratic voters. So it's drawn to favor the Republican Party in this instance. So gerrymandering districts are drawn to suit one party or another. In Texas, we have open primaries. You do not, Democrat, if you label yourself as a Democrat, you do not have to vote in the Democratic primary. If you're a Republican, you do not have to vote in the Republican primary. You can cross over. So in many cases, the action is in one primary or another. So for instance, if you're a Democrat but you live in a Republican area, more than likely in November, the odds are, the numbers suggest that a Republican candidate who wins the primary is going to win that general election. Maybe not unless it's in a competitive district. So if you're a Democrat living in a Republican district, you may want to cross over to the Republican primary and vote for the most pro-public education candidate running in that district. In November, it's the Democrat against the Republican on the ballot, and you vote for whoever you want to. Does that make sense, Mark?
That makes sense. What you're saying is Texas is an open primary.
Yes.
And each precinct, each voting district is gerrymandered to a favor or to almost guarantee that the same party will win the race every year.
Right.
So, to be responsible, a person should see who supports their point of view on public education and vote for that person, even if they're in the opposite party.
Absolutely.
Now that you've heard from Harley about why the primary election is really the election that matters, let's hear how you, as a campus leader, can create a culture of voting in your school. Joining me today is Barry Hanisch, Executive Director of the Texas Association of Community Schools. Barry is also a driving force in helping school districts and schools promote civic duty through voting. Barry, what is a culture of voting?
A culture of voting is simply a habit of voting. It is creating an atmosphere that encourages people to vote, encourages staff to vote, encourages students to vote whenever they are eligible to, and it's creating an opportunity for all of those individuals to understand their civic responsibility and understand the steps that are necessary to be taken to be eligible to vote in an election. In a democracy, your vote is your voice. And so if you don't vote, then you are choosing to have no say in your government, whether it be your city government, your county government, your state government, or your federal government. The Palestine ISD, where 2 years ago, the superintendent realized that only 5% of their staff, of about 600 employees,
Wow.
had voted in the primary before that. And he said, that's just not acceptable. We can do better than that. And so on the day before early voting, they were having a staff development day. And so they spent half a day talking about civic engagement, talking about the power of voting, the importance of voting, and he had the high school civics teacher talk to the whole staff about the importance of voting, about the role that they as citizens play in that, and the importance of being role models for our students about what civic engagement looks like.
Sure.
Early voting began the next day. When it was all said and done, they went from 5% voting to 85.5% voting. With that emphasis, with just the emphasis that they put on the power of the vote. And one of the reasons that it's important to vote, because there is good research, there are good statistics that show once someone votes, they will continue to vote.
Right.
It's getting them to vote that first time, and that's goes back to that first question.
Yeah.
That's part of the power of the culture of voting,
Right.
is to get them to make that first step, to make it easy to make that first step, and then it just becomes more comfortable and it becomes more of a habit. And one last thing, across the state, the thing that I hear over and over and over and over again are giving teachers blue jean days for registering to vote, blue jean days for bringing I voted stickers back. And it's not that blue jeans will create a culture of voting, it's that blue jeans serve as that reinforcement or that momentum to make that first vote.
Right.
So that it can easily then become a culture of voting.
Right. And I've heard many of our principals say that the I voted sticker turns into an educational moment for
Yeah.
their students, because don't
Absolutely.
we have a responsibility to teach civic engagement to our students?
Absolutely. That is, that's in the TEKS from elementary school till senior year in high school. The civic engagement and voting are mentioned in the TEKS all the way through.
Today, we've talked about the importance of voting and voting in the primary. Remember, every vote counts. One legislator won a recent re-election by 4 votes out of 52,000 cast. You can make a positive impact in your school today by encouraging a 100% campus voting record, allowing employees to vote over lunch or as a group after or before school. Hold student mock elections, allowing students to participate in the civic duty of casting a vote. Join us next time as we discuss developing a positive relationship with your legislator as we go out in the field. Thank you, and let's make a difference for kids, politically speaking.